Uncle Ron and stuff. I think this is episode 24, and the topic for today is Windows 11. If you have a computer, you're probably running Windows. Maybe you have an Apple, and if you do, then you don't have to go any farther. It's one of those, well, you write your own ending of the story. You don't have to go any farther. Okay, Windows 11. If your computer does upgrades automatically, or you manually go in and check for upgrades, you'll eventually come to the point where it'll say Windows 11 upgrade is ready, and you can do that. Suggest you do. Um, Always make a backup of your data before you do any kind of major upgrade, like from a Windows to Windows, anything. Okay, but more people than not have gotten a message that this computer is not supported by Windows 11, and you can click for more reasons and whatever. I'm going to tell you basically what the story is on Windows 11, and that is that they specified that you had to have a motherboard with a processor, actually two or more, that ran a certain speed. They also specified the motherboard had to support what was called TPM, Trusted Platform Management. This is a piece of memory that's stuck on the motherboard, and it is used to hold encryption keys or other sensitive data about that specific computer, motherboard and computer. And so, like ExxonMobil or somebody, all the computers they bought, they could put ownership tags, whatever, in that area, and then if somebody tried to steal it, that may lock it up and not allow them to use it. I mean, it would not be useful at all because it's down at that level. Okay. The third thing is what's called secure boot. Now, you don't know it, but when you turn your computer on, the motherboard has some program stored on it that starts activating various things and will eventually point to the Windows application and tell it to start up. Okay, and then Windows goes from there. But apparently, over time, there's been hackers who have gotten in at that level and put some nasty code down at the initiation of the computer level, which is not checked by a virus checker or those other things, root bots, all that kind of stuff. So that's what Windows wants you to have. Okay. In the case of TPM, that's been around for a while, wasn't generally used outside the government, and they're the reason we have all this stuff going on. They needed better accountability of who's looking at what and why, and everything is tracked inside of Windows. And part of the reason I think they specified a faster processor, or faster than you probably own, is that Windows continues to do more internal stuff that you're not aware of all the time. And it eats up CPU and memory just doing that, and leaves less cycles for you to use for the applications you want to do. So that's why I was saying, well, you need more horsepower. You need a bigger honker under your hood. You got a V6, you now need a V8. Okay? Not true. Everybody was saying, look, it runs Windows 10 just fine on this horsepower. I can run it on my V6, not a problem. I should be able to run Windows 11 on my V6. The problem is that Windows 11 added on 14 more air conditioner belts and all kind of other stuff that draw down the horsepower, leaving less for you to use. Anyway, that's not a major issue. The Trusted Platform Management chip has been around for quite some time. It's on the board. Most home users never even know it's there, and they don't use it. And the third thing is secure boot. Now that's relatively new. That's only come around in the last 2-3 years. So even though you may have TPM on your board, you probably don't have a secure boot. And in that case, where once it was, programmed once and never changed, now with Secure Boot, they have a way of updating it and periodically putting in signatures like an ID or your signature. What your signature looks like, how you have to sign on the screen for things. They have a signature for the programs that run down there that start everything up. And if they don't match what's stored in there, then they don't run that program. And it's a security issue, all fine and dandy. Most home users don't really have a problem with it. They should have offered a Windows 11 version for the home user, and they really didn't. It still requires TPM, secure boot, and a faster processor. Okay, so I got these really nice computers sitting around here, running Windows 10 Pro, working just fine. Windows 10 will be supported by Microsoft through 2025, and I think it's through, but I'm not 100% sure. So there's no immediacy. You can stay on Windows 10, and they will continue to update you with the security updates and all that kind of stuff. And applications you buy will still run on Windows 10 up through 2025. And then sometime they're going to give you notice they're no longer supporting Windows 10. Don't expect to get any more updates. Now, when they did this for XP and other Windows, they extended the time period which they provided updates. And it was smart of them to do so, because if they didn't update a known bug having to do with security, they could be liable for it, and the government and other people would say, hey, even though it's old, you sold it to me, I've been running it. So they extended that period, and that's probably what will happen on Windows 10. The period for which you can get updates, security updates, and other kind of updates will be extended for a while. So it's not a pressing issue for Windows 10. You don't really, Windows 11, you don't have to do anything right away. But what I wanted to tell you is there was such an outcry from corporations and large. If 50% of the PCs on the world won't run Windows 11 because of the hardware, there's going to be an outcry, and there was. And so Microsoft said, okay, well, we'll make a couple ways that you can put it on unsupported hardware. You don't have a TPM chip, you don't do secure boot, and your processor is not fast enough, but we'll let you put Windows 11 on that computer, but we're not going to support it. You may or you may not get updates, It may or may not operate correctly on your computer. The typical, just cover your butts kind of stuff. If it ran Windows 10 without TPM and secure boot, it should run with Windows 11 and secure boot and TPM ignored, turned off, and the processor speed turned off. Okay, so they did release instructions and also allowed you to download a special version of Windows 11 that you could use to upgrade or reinstall. Now, what I've done is I had a computer come in that nobody didn't want anymore. It had Windows 10 Pro installed on it. It was working okay. So I decided to try one of the methods, and the first one I tried was I would download Windows 11 into a USB drive and then follow the instructions to have a clean install of Windows 11 on this computer. That meant that everything on the hard drive would be wiped. The Windows 10 version was there, and any data on that drive, everything and anything would be wiped, and Windows 11 would be installed, and that's what I did. And I have, down on my feet, it's old, it does have dual processors, but they're running at a slow speed, and it only has 6 gigabytes of RAM, which is more than what Microsoft said was minimum, but I can tell that its Windows is pretty draggy on the 6 gigabytes. That has to do with just how much memory as opposed to processor speed. You put more memory in, and it probably would perform much better. But there are additional stuff that Windows 11 is going to do in the background that you don't know about that is going to be a performance hoggy on an older computer. Maybe even a new computer if you don't put enough memory in it. I don't know what they're selling right now. But anyway, I did that, and it appears to work fine. It came up, and in fact, I clicked, the normal upgrade. I wanted to see, is it going to download upgrades for this? Now keep in mind, this is I haven't authenticated or put a product key in for this yet. I just wanted to see if it would work. Will it even load on this old hardware? And will it run? And what's it look like? And how does it run? Is it even possible to get Windows 11 on an old computer? Well, the answer is yes, and it's doing upgrades. If I go over and click on an upgrade, it will find all these upgrades and install them. When I click it again, it says there are no more upgrades. Now again, Microsoft didn't guarantee that they would provide updates to machines that had Windows 11 running on them that don't have TPM and don't have secure boot. But I don't really know how they would know that at their level, honestly. I mean, sure, there's always ways they could do it. Anyway, the bottom line, this is going on too long. If you have an older computer that's running Windows 10, there are ways, at least I've proved it to myself, to get Windows 11 on it as a clean install. That means all loss of whatever is on that computer. So that's one way. I know before you do anything, you'd have to back up your data. That you have to do. An image backup isn't going to work in this case because it's all Windows 10 or something like that. So in what I did, you would have to reinstall your programs, and then you could reload the data you had from a backup you had created. That's the way I did it initially. Now there are instructions that I have that says you can upgrade an existing Windows 10 computer to Windows 11 via this method. Not click on the button upgrade from Microsoft while you're in Windows 10. That won't work. It says you can't do it. But they have a workaround, and that will be my next test. See how well the pure upgrade works. I'm going to reinstall Windows 10 on this old computer, which I have the software to do. I'm going to reinstall it. I'm going to put on some programs. I'm going to put some data on it. Then I'm going to go through the process to put Windows 11 upgrade on it, meaning it will recognize the programs I already have installed, and it will keep the data that's already on it. That's what I really want to do, and I have yet to prove it to myself that it'll do that. I'm not willing to risk it on one of my computers that's full of applications and full of data yet. But all hope is not lost. If you have an old computer running Windows 10 where Microsoft says you can't have Windows 11, you don't meet the requirements. I suspect, if not now, in the near future, there'll be somebody in your area offering to put Windows 11 on your computer. You have to take it to them. They got to do some mechanics down inside, but it's not a terrible, the knowledge amount is not that much. The time it takes is not that much. It shouldn't charge you an arm and a leg for it, as opposed to buying a new computer. And maybe this time you consider a new computer. If you run out of disk space, your machine's really slow. In the case of my wife, hers has been kind of problematic for a while. I've kept it running, but she moved stuff off the cloud, and now her hard drive is literally full. And so either we have to upgrade the hard drive to a larger capacity, or that laptop won't run Windows 11 either right off of Microsoft Update. So considering everything, I decided we would get her a new computer that ran Windows 11 at it met all the requirements for Windows 11. Now, I bought one off of eBay, and as far as I can tell, the processor on the motherboard and so on, it doesn't really meet the requirements. So they may be doing what I'm doing, and that is use this methodology that Microsoft provides, where you have to tinker down inside the BIOS and registries and things like that to load it. Now, it may be the case. I do not know on the particular model that I'm buying for her. If it has TPM, it probably does, but the issue is secure boot. Does it have that? I don't know. I suspect it doesn't. If the processor is the only thing that's not meeting the requirement, that's what I would like it to be. It's just the processor is not fast enough to meet Microsoft's requirement. I'm compensating for that by giving her 32 gigabytes of memory. A lot of memory. That's one way around performance issue. Go with more memory first. This one's running too long, so hopefully I've given you some idea about the Windows 11 issue and what you could potentially do about it. If you search around, you can find instructions on how Windows tells you to load it on your computer and what you have to do it. It's not for the average user, for sure, to do this sort of tinkering down inside. But it's possible, maybe Best Buy will offer that kind of service. If they don't, they should. There's nothing illegal about it. You may have to buy a code key for Windows 11. I don't know what that costs retail right now. I don't know. Maybe if you had Windows 10 already installed. I don't know about that part. You'd have to explore that yourself. But at least I suspect some of the geek squads or whatever they are in the area you live will be offering services to upgrade your not incompatible computer to Windows 11 if you really want to pursue that, as opposed to shelling out more money for a off-the-shelf compatible Windows 11 computer, which you probably don't need all that TPM stuff and secure boot anyway. Most users don't. It was all done for large corporations and government. I don't know why Microsoft stuck. They should have been a home version. In fact, they got multiple versions of Windows 11. Home version, professional version, some student version, like they always do. Why they didn't offer one that says, okay, you don't need TPM, you don't need secure boot, and I don't care what processors you got, here it is. And you could buy it for whatever, some cheap price. Anyway, enough of that. I think this is episode 24 on Windows 11. Hopefully it's helpful. Again, I'm trying to help, honestly. That's all for today. I was outside working in the dirt, but it started raining on me hard, and I said, no, I've had enough of that. I'll come back in.